Cyrano, Cyrano de Bergerac is a play set in the 17th century written by French playwright Edmond Rostand in the late 19th century. This play's had many adaptations from stage to big screen, including the 1987 rom-com Roxanne. Steve Martin, who wrote the screenplay for the film adaptation and played the lead role of C.D. Bales, C.B., along with French Appice, they turned this classic play into an award-winning film. Cyrano de Bergerac is set in France, with each act happening in a different location. This allows each act to be fleshed out and for the narrative to occur over 15 years. Roxanne, however, is set in 1980s Nelson, a mountain town in the United States of America where the narrative lasts only a few months. Cyrano is the first major character to be introduced in the play. Cyrano uses words like buffoon or imposthume to distinguish himself from other characters in the play, whereas Montfleury uses words such as gentleman to show that he is more respectful than Cyrano. The juxtaposition between Montfleury's respectful and honorific language and Cyrano's arrogant, pejorative tone creates a contrast between the two characters. The words buffoon and imposthume also rhyme, which shows Cyrano's more playful side and his affinity for poetry and wordplay, a character trait that Martin employs when playing C.B. in Roxanne. The characterization of Cyrano as a more serious and threatening character is very evident in this scene of the play and can be seen as he continues to threaten Montfleury, such as by declaring that he'll make cut work of Montfleury's guts. The introduction to C.B. in Roxanne is quite different, having him be more upbeat and set in a less chaotic environment. It begins by having Steve Martin, who portrays C.B., skipping and singing his actions, which identifies him as a more light-hearted character. The first reference to Cyrano's large nose also differs between the two scenes. In the play, it is shown about halfway through the scene as one of the audience members has noticed it but does not say anything, and Cyrano notices them staring at my nose. Rostand uses dialogue to introduce an integral part of Cyrano's identity and appearance, as well as how he and others view him. The comment from Cyrano leads to a soliloquy about his nose, which helps enrich his character by drawing on two important parts of himself, his nose and how cynical he is. This leads to a sword fight between Montfleury and Cyrano. This delineates Cyrano as a serious and violent person, whereas in the film, a close-up is used to spotlight the main part of CB's appearance, his nose. This is indicated as an important part of his character. When the two men he encounters turn around and try and figure out if he's a cop or not, there is a sense of relief as they realize that he's a firefighter and that they won't be arrested, and that they can now make fun of CB and his nose. This is an important point that CB's wit is on display, and he catches the two men off guard.
I really admire your shoes.
What?
I love your shoes.
What do you mean?
And I was just thinking that as much as I really admire your shoes, and as much as I'd love to have a pair just like them, I really wouldn't want to be in your shoes at this particular time and place.
Ow.
The use of dialogue helps introduce this as a core part of his character. While CB and his introduction are quite different from the rest of the scene, quite different from the play, the rest of the scene is quite similar, having him in a fight with weapons of some sort. In the film, it has been more modernized and made less violent by using sporting equipment props, a tennis racket, and golf clubs. The use of sound effects when CB uses his tennis racket mimics the sound of a sword fight, of a sword with a metallic noise.
I really admire your shoes.
There are also point of view shots that are used to show the perspectives of the two men getting beaten up. They are used to allow the audience to feel more invested in the narrative.
Panicked.
During Act 3, Scene 6, Christian tries to employ Cyrano's help to talk to Roxanne. The characterization of Christian when he begs for Cyrano to help me develops his character by showing him how much he loves Roxanne. Towards the end of Scene 6, Cyrano begins to coach Christian. When Cyrano tells Christian to throw some pebbles at Roxanne's windows, it demonstrates Christian's reliance on Cyrano to help him, and he is incompetent in knowing how to approach the situation. Similarly, in Roxanne, Chris is depicted begging for CB's help. CB obliges him, as earlier he made an agreement with Roxanne to help get Christian to talk to her.
Look, you gotta help me. She wanted me. It was working.
I don't think I could after that.
Chris is asking for help characterizes him by showing how much he wants to be with Roxanne. When CB tells Chris to get Roxanne's attention by throwing some stones at her window and breaking it, it demonstrates that Chris is careless and doesn't think through his actions. The setting of a balcony helps add to the deceit undercurrenting Scene 7 and the play as a whole by having Roxanne up on the balcony, blissfully unaware of what is going on, while Cyrano and Christian are underneath it lying to her. Another part of the film that diverts slightly from Cyrano to Bergerac is Chris and CB concealing themselves in the bushes. Under and over shots are used to show what the characters can see, they're especially used when CB is talking for Chris. Throughout much of the scene there is light romantic music playing in the background which helps set the vibe of the scene. Much of the two scenes are paralleled in Roxanne, but there are also differences such as the type of language used and how the scene unfolds. In the decisive ending to Act 4, Christian and Cyrano's divergent views as to whether Roxanne's deserve to finally know the truth emerges in an increasingly fast-paced exchange between the pair. Christian's dignified views that the deception should be stopped becomes more apparent and amplified with his single exclamation of the word no. With this, a new character development in Christian's character occurs, as he finally gains a moral compass and stands up to Cyrano on a matter of heart and intellect. In the film scene, Chris's priorities are put on display when he asks Roxanne, "Couldn't I just be cute?" This dialogue indicates that Chris doesn't care about having an intellectual relationship with Roxanne, he just thinks that she's attractive. As the narrative of the play comes to a climax, it once again becomes chaotic, mirroring the beginning of the play when Cyrano is introduced, demonstrating the more brash side to his character. This is further depicted by his incessant questioning of Roxanne, asking her that even if Christian were hideous and disfigured, would she still love him? Roxanne does this to amplify the chaos as a way to deflect from the truth and prevent it from being found out. This part of the film differs a lot from the play, except for the one part where Roxanne says that she would still love Chris even if he were ugly.
Chris, don't you see? It wouldn't even matter if you were ugly.
No.
This is because it allows Roxanne to admit her love for CB. The play's setting of a battlefield becomes more symbolic as it represents the war of emotions within and between characters. The battle for the truth is never resolved, and so no one emerges as victor in this metaphorical battle. The battlefield is also representative of the chaos that is to come as Cyrano and Roxanne argue, and the battle in the war where the scene is set continues. The setting of this scene in Roxanne is very different, taking place in Roxanne's house, a calm, quiet environment. This means that the overall feeling of the scene is more intimate. Tracking shot is used to follow Chris and Roxanne through the scene as they move across her room. This was used to add to the intimacy of the scene.
Chris.
While there were many differences between Cyrano de Bergerac and Roxanne, the overall plot points were similar. Many of the changes made were due to Martin changing the context of the story to make it more appealing to modern audiences. Another factor that affected this was a genre change from a romantic tragic comedy to a romantic comedy. This affects the film by adding more humor and less serious moments in the play.